Behind the scenes.
Yep.
We're back.
Mm-hmm.
We are back. Cheers.
That was me, Armadillo, drinking my drink.
What? So, Alejandro, what kind of drink did you get?
Delicious ant soup. I'm swimming in it right now. I'm in a sauna of ant soup, just bathing.
Do armadillos eat ants?
Insects of a variety of kinds.
Oh, okay.
I'm glad. Are you full?
Oh yes, I'm just bathing in my
of it.
jacuzzi of ant soup.
Wow. I don't even know how to begin. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Alejandro the Armadillo. And this is...
Hold your applause.
At least he has some fans. And you got a haircut.
Yep. And we'll talk about where.
Yes,
later.
we will. You're looking very nicely framed in there. Aren't you?
I guess so.
Yes. So am I. Ish. It's been an interesting week. Okay, but we'll talk about that. One gulp and we're ready to rock and roll.
I still have more, but I'll save it for later.
I love our audio sound effects.
Very professional.
I know. This is what you guys get by subscribing to us on YouTube.
That's right.
And yeah, you're welcome. You ready?
Yep.
We ready? Welcome to the State of the Ozarks podcast. This is Josh Heston, editor-in-chief.
And this is Ethan Gruboff.
And we're talking about our Ozarks.
Your community.
And this episode of Been Thinking About has been brought to you by Stafford's Barbershop and Shave Company, the place for men in downtown Branson.
Shepherd the Musical, rediscovering America's story.
And Taney County Health Department, creating opportunities for healthy lives in our community. Good folks right there.
Yep.
And speaking of good folks, of course, we've got some projects going with Taney County Health Department.
Mm-hmm.
Some exciting stuff. We encourage people to go to State of the Ozarks. Oh, yeah, I can't talk. Go to StateoftheOzarks.net and subscribe to the weekly. It is free. It comes to your inbox every Sunday at 5. From my email address, actually, josh@stateoftheozarks.net. And we're going to have some very cool stuff working in conjunction with Taney County Health Department out very soon.
Yeah, it's very exciting stuff.
It is. Some humbling moments because it's going to be putting me as a journalist in contact with a lot of people who are a lot less privileged than I am. Individuals who have had some very difficult situations, difficult times in their lives, and are struggling to make that through. And I have been privileged and tasked with telling their stories in conjunction again with the health department so that we can begin moving forward on immediate, medium range and long-term changes for all of us that is going to make this a much healthier place in the Ozarks. So looking forward to that. Of course, saw Dr. Hayden Head not long ago in regards to Shepherd the Musical.
And how's that going?
He's doing great. I don't have any breaking news on Shepherd the Musical, but he is doing great.
That's good to hear. Been a while since we've had him on.
He's doing great, and we meet for breakfast about once a month.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
At
the hospital.
At the hospital.
Yeah.
At the hospital.
They have good breakfast.
They have amazing breakfast. The cafeteria has some of the best French toast I've ever had in my entire life. So when I'm ready to overdose on sugar, unfortunately, I am not intolerant to egg. I am intolerant to toast because if I eat too much bread, it makes me fat.
Mm-hmm.
I call that my food allergy, but that's so we'll catch up with Hayden soon.
That's good.
And of course, you just saw Josh.
Yeah.
It's Josh Stafford of Stafford's Barbershop and Shave Company, and he whittled on your hair.
Yeah.
Looks good.
Yeah, I just sat down. He goes, how short are we going on the sides? And I said, I don't know.
Well,
that's the good thing is I can sit down and he goes, okay, what are we doing? I don't know. And he'll just go to work.
And it looks good.
Yeah, because usually, they want specifics and all that. And
he just flies by the seat of his pants and makes it work. I like that. It takes a lot of stress off of us. Mm-hmm. But I also really like... This is kind of a brave step. You've got it really short on the sides.
Yeah, I've never done that. I've done it once before against my will, but...
Yeah. So I'm digging the look.
Oh, thank you.
I'm really... Do you feel good about it?
I do.
Good, because it looks nice.
Yeah. Take our word for it.
Yeah. Or watch us on YouTube.
Yeah.
And at Soda Media. But we'll get to that shortly. So, yeah, it's been an eventful week.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
We had, like, sort of three nights of full moon last week. I think we've all suffered through that here in the Ozarks, but come out on the other end and still all in one piece. Mm-hmm. And what did you think of the editorial?
It was definitely an interesting read because I remember, because I've known you since...
Early 2009,
because you had just launched. You had just launched State of the Ozarks.
Yes, and you were a young teenager.
I was like 13.
Yeah,
12 or 13.
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah,
when we first
right.
met.
I think were you still 12 and then you turned 13?
I think so, because I think you came in like the latter half of me being in 7th grade.
Probably so.
Yeah.
It was. I came over the house probably the first time in December or January.
Yeah, something like that. So I was either like almost about to turn 13 or
I think
had just turned.
And you're February. Oh, my almost least favorite month of the year. Month that everybody gets sick. We'll edit that out. Actually, he'll edit that out. Mm-hmm. We're just here. And we Jared, bring your face over here. He's a new father. Hey! We are so proud of you. So
Thank you. That'll make the podcast.
No, that's getting cut out of the podcast, but it will be on YouTube. Yeah, he's the sound engineer. He controls all. He's the equivalent of like an archangel. Yeah. He just does everything and makes it happen. And yeah, with a cool hat.
But back to 2007.
Oh, 2007, 2008, 2009 were really the formative years of State of the Ozarks. Mm-hmm. I didn't start State of the Ozarks until the end of 2007, September.
Yeah.
And
which is why we celebrate SodaFest in September.
Yes, it is. Coming up on September 14th in downtown Hollister. Just dropping that in. Mm-hmm. Details are already on StateoftheOzarks.net. And if you're wondering, if you just haven't been paying a lot of attention, you're wondering what we're talking about with the weekly. Again, we send out, State of the Ozarks sends out a weekly email every Sunday at 5, and it is free. There's a recipe, and then, of course, we get to talk about it on a regular basis. Talk about it on Facebook, talk about it here on the podcast, and you can read it for yourself and then follow up on the articles. And please make the recipe. It's a British gingerbread this year.
And then bring it over for us to try.
And bring it over for us to try because we're hungry and we deserve it. Mm-hmm. We work very hard.
Yes. And
along with that, so I met your dad at the end of September of 2008 out at Silver Dollar City. And then we started chatting back and forth about Ozark stuff. And then it was getting on toward December. I know December was the first time I ever went to Smyrna. Mm-hmm. So I think we might have all met each other there, or we might not. I'm not sure.
Was it when he was performing with Share the Goodness and Mercy?
That was when
I might have been there.
Yeah.
I think.
Maybe. But the time I remember actually meeting you was at the house, and I believe that was either December or January. Mm-hmm. Either December of 2008 or January of 2009.
It's been a long time.
It's been a long time. So coming back, now that we've got our calendar figured out.
Right.
Thank you for bearing with us. We have some important scheduling dates from 11 years ago to work out. You remember my blazer.
I had a cheese Danish.
Oh, I love cheese Danishes. They're so good.
Yeah, I remember that I can't
blazer.
say really old, but anyway, I remember the blazer because one of my vivid memories of the blazer was when Smyrna was doing like a food drive, delivering food to families in need in the area. Yes. And you and I rode together to deliver some of it.
That was the first time we were hanging out.
Yeah, just the two of us, and I remember. You were telling me about a genius money-making Christmas idea.
Oh my, what was it?
you know those like little paper lunch bags that some of them come with different designs on them. Mm-hmm. Well, this one's like with the old claymation Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer on the bag, and then inside it was a pound of beef jerky or a deer jerky and a little red light bulb.
Poor Rudolph.
Yep.
I forgot about that.
That just stuck with me.
That was good times.
Yeah.
Good times. We should revisit that and do it for a State of the Ozarks.
Put a pin on it.
Yeah. Stars. Oh.
Coming to Soto Fest 2019.
Rudolph gift bags. They're delicious. Don't hate. That actually ties into our Instagram. Did you see our Instagram?
The taxidermy head.
Yeah, the taxidermy deer head on Instagram today.
Yeah.
Oh, follow us on Instagram.
You found that at a thrift store?
That was at the old flea market that is now the Dollar General store in Branson.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, before that Apple Market. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay, now I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Because it's been like...
Many, many things.
Yeah.
Fortunately, it's a dollar store now. So, good times. And so, what did you think about now that we've talked about everything but the content of the editorial? What did you think of the editorial?
It was just, it's interesting for me because I grew up here, so to me, I don't understand what draws people here.
Right. That's fair.
Because you talk to most people that grew up around here, one of their biggest things is that they wanted to leave.
Yes. And then you have these yahoos from elsewhere trying to get here, like me. I worked way too hard to get here. and stay here. There was a few times over the last 10 years that I was wondering what on earth I'd done to myself. But something that we've talked about, and we'll get into this a little bit more, but there is something, and of course I've spent coming up on 12 years of exploring that something that is culturally significant about the Ozarks. Mm-hmm. It's not just sentimentality. There is something very special here, and being able to help the next generation see some of that, and at the very least begin to appreciate the sense of place that is here, is exciting to me.
And one of the things that you put on, that was on the weekly or the editorial was how you're going on a 9-hour pilgrimage.
Yes.
Which brought me back to what we were talking about yesterday during Sunday school.
Yes.
About, pilgrimages.
Yeah. It's a hard word. And journeys, that sense of journey. And sometimes, and this was one of my takeaways, the reason I wrote that about just kind of that moment of packing things up, and it was wintertime, and where I grew up, we had 30 acres, and there was a temperature inversion would happen if it would get, in the wintertime, if it would get really warm during the afternoon, like with the sunshine, but it was still like dropping down into the 30s or into the 20s at night. We had a ravine, and was the creek water in the bottom, and it would stay really cold in there. And probably about between 4 and 6 o'clock, there would be a temperature inversion in which that cold air would essentially get pulled out of the ravine and get pulled uphill toward the house. And there was a few times that I had the opportunity to actually be standing down behind the barn when that would come up, and it would just this rush of cold, damp air rushing past me. It was almost a metaphysical experience. Mm-hmm. And I remember that happened that night, and there was something very profound, because comparatively speaking, I wasn't that old. I was older than you are now, but I felt like a youngster at the time. Mm-hmm. And I was leaving the safety of all the things that I really knew, the home that I grew up in, the safety of the status quo, the safety of what I was going to be doing with my life, and I was taking what looked like a huge, huge risk. Of course, looking back on it, the biggest risk that I could possibly have taken was not doing State of the Ozarks.
Right.
State of the Ozarks turned out, and has turned out to be the thing that has kept me safe, the thing that has caught me when I've fallen. And the Ozarks as a whole, the Ozarks community has caught me so many times when I have stumbled through hard times. Of course, Smyrna, which is our church, has been there for me in hard times. Your family has been there for me. And of course, that leads us to a couple of your dad's articles.
Right. So the 2 feature articles in the Weekly today were both written by my dad.
Yep. Very proud of that.
Yep. And here in a little bit, we're going to get him in.
Yeah, we're going to bring him in to talk about Dutch oven cooking, which you remember that.
Yeah, I remember. Well, I remember you guys doing that. You know, building the fire, cooking the pot roast on the fire.
Yeah.
At the time, I was a pretty picky eater, so like I ate a little bit, but you know, and then I remember like the next day, going out to where the fire was, and you know, doing what any smart 14-year-old would do, and stuck my foot in it. And it was still smoldering.
Yeah.
I had shoes on, but you know,
yeah,
they were melted.
We're sorry.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah, 14-year-olds.
Yeah.
And then of course moon planting.
Yes.
Which is planting by the moon sign.
Mm-hmm.
Something your dad knows quite a bit about. So, and then of course gingerbread.
Yeah.
British gingerbread.
British
gingerbread. It's not the same as regular gingerbread.
Because it's
British.
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So let's get your dad in here.
All right, let's do it.
And since you're behind the scenes, you get to follow us along as we swap everybody out. Are you? You're on camera.
I'm a monk.
Key. Oh.
That's the only time I've ever laughed at you. Today.
Oh. Are we ready?
We're starting.
So, Dale, we got you into the studio.
Yes, I'm here in the studio. Isn't it wonderful?
We dragged you away from the kitchen.
Yeah, well, you know,
Yeah.
I'm barefoot.
Oh, that's a bad joke no matter what you cut it.
That's right.
But we want to talk about the articles. You wrote these articles a long time ago.
Yes, I did.
We're
back
talking
in
about
2010, actually.
Well, 2010 and 2009.
Okay.
The Dutch oven recipe is 2009. That was
wow.
I think that was one of the first, maybe the first article that we published.
I think so. Yeah.
And in good State of the Ozarks fashion, when we were talking about food,
yeah,
we made it.
We like food.
We do like food.
I resemble that statement.
And that article, how did that come about? We were throwing around ideas.
We're throwing around ideas, and one of the things that I've always enjoyed was, cooking outdoors. You know, I like to grill. I like to do whatever I can outdoors. And we were talking about, you know, how people used to cook like that, not only outdoors but indoors, because, you know, they didn't have the electric ranges or the gas ranges, and they cooked on their fireplace. And it was just something that I picked up kind of, you know, by happenstance. And so anyway, we agreed to set it up out here in the backyard, and I'd cook a full meal in that Dutch oven, and you'd photograph it, I'd write about it, and we'd eat it.
And we published it.
Oh yeah, and that too.
Yeah, it was really good. You should do that again.
Yes, one of my favorite is pot roast, and the recipe's even on there.
It is.
You know, we did pot roast with potatoes and carrots and celery and other vegetables in there, along with homemade biscuits that were baked in the Dutch oven. You know, there's no reason a person couldn't feed themselves during the wintertime if the electricity went out, you know, as long as you've got a pot and someplace out there to do it.
And something to start a fire with.
Yep, something to start a fire with.
And that was a fun day. We photographed an abandoned church.
Mm-hmm.
Should put some pictures on Instagram on that. Photographed an abandoned church. It was a lousy picture I got, but we saw a white squirrel down in Eureka.
Yes, I remember that.
Eureka Springs. Yeah. It was a cold February Saturday before the season started, before the tourist season started. Mm-hmm. Good times.
It was.
Good times. Can you imagine that new biscuit recipe?
Oh my!
With that pot roast.
That would
be
great.
Good. That would be really good.
I'm getting hungry.
Buttermilk biscuit recipe. And and then the other article.
Yep.
Moon planting.
Moon planting.
You planted a lot of moons.
Yeah. Well, I did plant some moonflowers once.
Okay.
And they came up and did their thing. But planting by the signs of the moon is something that I scoffed at for a long time.
Did you?
Oh,
so
yeah.
you were a skeptic.
I was a skeptic, and
You were one of the modern farmers.
yeah, just when
Modern gardeners.
weather was right, you get out there and you throw the seeds in the ground, you cover them, and hope they come up. But I'd had so many of the old timers tell me about, and I'm an old timer now, but they were talking about planting by the signs and planting by the moon and all this other stuff. So anyway, long story short, I devised an experiment just to see if it'd work. And I had a little plot of ground out there, and by one side of the moon, I planted a portion of that little patch of ground in turnip seeds. And when it came the other time of the moon, I planted the rest of them, side by side, and just waited for them to come up. And lo and behold, what I discovered was, maybe these old timers didn't know what they were talking about. In the light of the moon, which is from the new moon to the full.
So the moon is getting brighter.
Yeah, the moon is getting brighter.
You're able to see more and more of the moon.
That's the time that you want to plant above ground crops like beans and corn, tomatoes, and things like that. From the full moon to the new moon, when the moon is getting dimmer or darker, that's the time you want to plant root crops like potatoes and turnips and radishes and onions and things like that. And what happened with that experiment was the side that had been planted in the light of the moon. I got spindly little things, growing up out of the ground, and about marble to golf size turnips. They weren't very good. You fed them to the hogs. But the other side did exactly what they were supposed to be: nice, big, green, leafy leaves, and nice, full, big turnips, and so that kind of made me a believer. And then I started planting, my own garden. Not as precise as the almanac does it, but in the light of the moon, I'd put my above ground crops. In the dark of the moon, I'd put my below ground crops, and pretty successful all the way around.
That is really interesting. You wouldn't think that that would have that much effect.
You wouldn't think so, but man, being having worked in the tourist industry and all this other stuff, we know when the full moon hits. Because
things start changing.
Things are different,
February.
And
I really think it's an interesting aspect that there's something very, very primal, maybe metaphysical about it. That's the second time I've used the word metaphysical, but it's one of my favorites right at the moment. There's something almost magical about this, and the idea that maybe getting back to what we are, to our elements, to the elemental reality of our universe, isn't such a bad idea.
Yeah, I agree. In rereading the articles that I wrote, with in the Dutch oven cooking and the moon planting, it just, I'm not a master gardener, I'm not a master chef. But it's two things that I enjoy doing: growing food and preparing it, and of course consuming it. But that just really brings me back to who I am. Got a lot of letters behind my name, but all that doesn't mean any difference. I'd rather be out there in the garden, digging in the dirt, and making stuff grow,
and making good food for those around you.
For good people. And
we appreciate that.
Yeah.
Dale, it's good to have you back in the
Thank
studio.
you. It's good to be here.
Awesome.
All right.
We'll get Ethan back for the
outro?
For the outro.
Okay, Mr. Ethan, it's time for you to outro.
And we'll do just a little bit of a sum-up-sis.
Okay.
Sum-up-sis.
A sum-up-sis. Not a synopsis, a sum-up-sis. I can say that because I'm better.
It's a very metaphysical word.
It is.
Isn't that the thing off of Winnie the Pooh?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. That's what chases the heffalumps and the woozles.
Yes.
You ready? Or we'll visit a little bit and then we'll do this.
Okay.
So we're back, Ethan. You're back, and you're tired. You've been up a long time. I think we should. I got you right in the middle of that. We're gonna roll with it. Right. I think we should get your dad to make some more food.
Yes. I second that.
He is one of the best cooks in the Ozarks that I know of.
Yeah.
He really is. And of course, on podcast night, he keeps us all fed.
Mm-hmm.
So we should shout out to him about that.
Yeah.
We appreciate it very, very much. And yeah.
And of course, that is one of the perks of being a sponsor is they get to come here and
yes, it is.
eat the food.
You get to come over for supper. We'll I also anybody who comes over, ask them, make sure that they don't have any food allergies or anything that they really don't like, and then we go from there.
Yeah.
So good times. Good hospitality, good State of the Ozarks cooking, and of course, to learn more, visit us on StateoftheOzarks.net.
Sign up for the State of the Ozarks weekly email.
Like State of the Ozarks on Facebook.
Follow @Soto Media on Twitter.
Subscribe to Soto Media on YouTube.
And follow us on Instagram at State of the Ozarks.
Thank you for listening to Been Thinking About, the State of the Ozarks podcast with Josh.
And Ethan.
And this is our Ozarks.
Your community.
Tweeter?
Tweeter.
We got through it, didn't we?
Tweeter? He's like, we're like...
Oh, my ears are fucked up. I didn't even hear you.
He looked at me and we were like...
Yeah, that's it. I was like...
Tweeter?
And then I just come...
Oh my gosh. We have fun. We do have fun.
Tweeter! What a joke! Tweeter!
I was
Don't say anything you don't want on YouTube.
Channeling my inner
tweet.
Alejandro, yes.
Tweeter! Racist.
On that note,
we can't be on YouTube.
We will see you guys soon. Subscribe to us here on State of the Ozarks channel.
Yes.
Please visit StateoftheOzarks.net.
Sign up for the State of the Ozarks weekly email.
Yes, and don't forget.
How do you sign up for the weekly email?
There's a box.
On the what?
On the homepage.
How do you get there?
You go to StateoftheOzarks.net.
Oh, okay, cool.
And you sign up.
Sweet.
On the box.
Okay.
You don't know that, do you?
I do.
I know.
What?
And don't forget, we're on Twitter.
Tweeter.